For many individuals, creating a budget can be a very time consuming effort. It can seem like all of that is kind of wasted when it comes to planning, sticking with the budget. It can be a daunting task that does take a lot of time. Now, whether you're a recent graduate, you're just new to budgeting, or you're tuning in for the very first time, guys, we're going to be going through some of the budgeting mistakes that I see. Now, being a certified financial counselor, building budgets with individuals, there's a lot of things that people do not remember at all, or really kind of overlook or forget to include in the budget. And we're going to be going through those today. Number one, starting with the negative inertia. Now, this, of course, is something that you have to remember, guys. When you start putting on automatic payments, when you look at subscriptions, when you look at memberships, when you start automating your life, which I 100% absolutely recommend, you don't know exactly where all your money goes unless you're tracking every dollar. Now, we know a lot of people do make spending plans. They make, something outside of budgets. And again, a lot of people also say that you don't need to go through and track every single line item, making sure that everything in the budget is accounted for. In my opinion, guys, you really don't need to a point. When you're starting a budget, when you're fresh, when you're new to this, you really need to kind of set the groundwork of what you're spending on a regular basis. So I would really advise for probably the first 3 to 6 months to go through and do the legwork, spend the time and the effort to actually build out that budget so you know where every dollar is going. This is going to make a big, really step in the right direction when you look at your money. Again, the money that you're earning versus what you're spending and what you have left over. Knowing your bills down to the dollar will make a difference for time. There's going to be a lot of bills that are just reoccurring, that are auto payments. For instance, if you have an auto loan that's set up on a 5-year, let's say a 5-year loan, you're going to be making 60 payments, which are always going to be the same. If you have a mortgage, it's going to be relatively stagnant, meaning that a lot of the budget is going to be just a repeat month after month. So once you do get into a cycle of understanding and knowing exactly where your money is, then you can really tune in and you can make adjustments. Now, number two, accountability. This is one of the big things, guys. A lot of people that I do talk about budgeting, I will give them the budget. I'll give them a budgeting worksheet. And guess what? Poof. I never see them again. That is right, guys. They will completely ghost me. I will not see anyone that coming back to making the budget. And even some individuals that we've created budgets and really came up with a plan. There's been some splurging spending. There's been some impulse spending. There's been some parts that they've kind of laxed, and the need category and the want category has kind of blended. So if you're really in for this for the long haul, guys, being financially free, doing the debt-free journey, you have to take accountability within yourself. And number three, overspending with credit cards. This is one of the most common things that I see. When it comes to credit cards, a lot of people rely very, very heavily on credit cards, not only as a means to, improve their credit score, but also the ability to borrow money they don't have or borrow money from future you. So essentially what a lot of people that I see are doing is putting things on credit cards that they can afford or they could afford if they budgeted properly. That means that future you is stuck with a credit card bill with money that is already spent. So essentially you're floating your money, kind of like we've seen with old school checks, where if I put something on my credit card on a Wednesday and I get paid on Friday I can pay it off. But for 2 days, you're floating those funds on the credit card for something that, again, your money is already spoken for when it comes to your paycheck, meaning that as soon as it comes in, it's going right out of the door. Future you has no more money left because, of course, you've already spent the money before it came in. Number four, the lack of prioritization. This is really important, guys. This is where it comes into paying yourself first. When you look at your budget, looking at your goals, looking at your long-term goals, retirement, college planning, major purchases, home purchases, vacations, most people do not budget for these items at all, guys, and they don't think really big picture that they need to. For instance, a lot of people I see with the prioritization will put, let's say, 4% in their 401k. 4%, guys, in your 401k is not going to be enough to retire, period. Regardless of who you are, guys, 4% is not going to be enough. Even 8%, 10% for a majority of people is not going to be enough. That is why they look at putting 15% of your income towards retirement. Same can be said for college if you're saving in 529 plans, and MESP programs, or major purchases like home purchases. You have to be dedicated. Number one, you have to know the timeline. What is the prioritization? What is it more important? Is it the impulse buying when you go to the checkout? Is it buying more clothes, buying more goods, getting services that have little to no value? Or is it purchasing the house? Or is it retiring? Again, you really need to prioritize these goals and figure out exactly what you want to do. Now, number 5, we get into the lack of tracking. Again, this is one of the big ones that I see, guys, is when you have your expenses, you're not keeping a detailed report, which again, when it comes to budgeting, once you understand fundamentally why you're budgeting and you know the goals that you want to achieve with the budgeting system, the lack of tracking is what comes in, where you'll have an entire bucket of a couple $100. And again, this is what I see with the majority of people is there'll be a bucket that is almost kind of miscellaneous, unaccounted for. And that is not the way a budget works, guys. Anything you want to do, regardless of what it is, you have to stress that put it in the budget. If you love traveling, if you like going out to eat, if you like dining, if you like vacation, whatever you like to do, guys, put it in the budget. Put it as a line item on the budget. It will make a game changer because essentially, if you're putting away, $200, $300, $400, whatever it is a month to go out and eat, because that's what you really, really do enjoy. As long as the budget can maintain and you can work with the budget to fulfill those needs, might mean cutting back on a couple other things, but making sure you're tracking exactly what you're spending. And again, with the budget, if you're putting $300 aside, let's say for entertainment to go out, to the movies and a couple other things, and you only spend $250, you can change that up. Where are you going to put that extra $50? Like we've said before, guys, every dollar has a purpose. You need to know where it goes and you need to know exactly what you're spending it on. Number 6, we get into the impulse spending. Now this, we know they've said over $2,000 a year is spent on impulse purchases, which means you have no plan to buy it. You have nothing in the budget for it, but you are still purchasing it. We see this most prevalent when it comes to like grocery shopping when you're hungry, not sticking to a list, the impulse purchases at checkout, and also online with the online retail therapy that people love. Buying things gives you a little dopamine hit, makes you feel good about the purchase. Then, of course, for a lot of people, regret it because it wasn't in the budget. When you start having that accountability piece and you're looking at the numbers, there's again another line item that is not accounted for. The number 7, underestimating expenses. This is really key, guys. And like I said earlier, 3 to 6 months of data is really what we're looking for. So this was actually an experiment that I did during my master's program. We actually sat down and built a budget using financial statements. So we actually brought in our bank statements for the last 3 months. That is right. Because when you look at it, and again, looking at accounting, looking at finance, looking at budgeting, the numbers do not lie, guys. If you have one financial institution with one checking account or you have one credit card, going through your statements and kind of picking them apart, you're going to see exactly where your money went, exactly where it was spent. You can even categorize it into different buckets and see what were needs, what were wants, what was really unnecessary, and what can you cut from that budget. That's why I said earlier, tracking super, super important when it comes to making sure you know exactly where your money goes. And the final one, guys, no emergency savings. There is a reason why when it comes to budgeting, the emergency savings is number 1, guys. And the big reason for this is it will keep you from having to go back and borrow money. When you start getting into the debt cycle, and we see this a lot with individuals that rely on credit cards to live, that rely on cash advances, which again, you're taking money from future you in that case, but not having an emergency fund means that when something happens, and trust me, there is going to be a point of life that something will happen, that you need money, you're going right back to the credit cards. You're going ahead and you're borrowing again money from future you that is not going to be available. And again, it just kind of starts this debt cycle that never ends. And biggest budgeting mistakes, guys, are absolutely in this video. Make sure if you like the content that you subscribe. We're on our debt-free journey. We want this to be done, guys. We are debt-free except our home. Once that is paid off, it will be 100% debt-free. And how did I get here, guys? It came from budgeting. It came from planning. We know exactly what the goal is. We know what the guideline for retirement is. We know what the guideline in the years that we have until the home is paid off and how much we're looking to save within point A to point B to really make it a big difference. But all right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.